Welcome back, mamas. Y'all, today I want to talk to you about something we all feel from time to time, right? Mom guilt. How do we recognize mom guilt? And then what do we do with it? Like, how do we use it to help move us forward towards what we want in our life? I hope to open your eyes to this today. So let's get into it. Do you wish you had control of your days, that you had a rhythm, but instead feel overwhelmed, scattered, and like there's never enough time? You're in the right place. I'm Danielle, a recovering workaholic, wife, and stay-at-home mom of 2 girls. I've learned how to reclaim my time and find purpose and freedom so I can be present with my kids and feel like myself again. Here, we embrace where we are, but we don't stay there. So if you're ready to trade the chaos for clarity, the guilt for grace, and the endless to-do list for aligned flow, grab the kiddos a snack and toss in that laundry because I know you're multitasking, and let's do this because your time, your purpose, and you matter. Okay, mamas. So you know that I like to keep this podcast timely, right? I know we all feel mom guilt from time to time. And lately, I have been feeling mom guilt about something that not necessarily is warranted, I guess, of feeling mom guilt for, but in a way it is, okay? And so there's so many different types of mom guilt that we tend to feel. Some of our mom guilt is maybe valid or useful, right? And then there's some mom guilt that is just terrible. It is a detriment. It is not serving us. It is not serving anyone. And it is stopping us from what we need to do, right? And this weekend, I was really dealing with this, and I've actually been dealing with it a lot lately, but more in particular, this one situation where my daughter has been cheerleading all summer. And I have been feeling like I wanted to say something about the situation that is going on at her cheer practice for a minute. Like, I really am not comfortable with, they wound up having a coach quit and they got a new coach. And this new coach, she is really mean to the girls. And these girls are little, right? They are like 10, some of them are 11, but like they're basically 10-year-olds, okay? And I do not think it's appropriate for this girl, she's still in her 20s, to be treating these kids the way that she's treating them and to induce fear into them instead of like positivity. So what had been a positive cheer experience and something that my daughter was absolutely loving has turned into this like drama. And I hear the girls saying that they are afraid to go to cheer practice if this coach is going to be there. It just kills me because I am like, oh my gosh, this should not be going on, but I haven't done anything to stop it. And so I finally did do something over the weekend that hopefully will stop it. I don't know. We have a meeting tonight about it, but it made me start to think about mom guilt as a mom, where I used to feel guilty for pretty much everything in mom life, right? I would feel guilty if my child was unhappy. I would feel guilty if I wasn't doing certain things that maybe I thought were shoulds, that like we should have been doing, that other people were doing. I felt like we were doing a lot as they were little, but I just saw other people doing things that I wasn't doing, right? And so it made me start to think that the things that I was doing weren't maybe good enough or weren't the right things, or maybe I could have done more, or this or that or the other thing. Like, we always judge ourselves, right? And so we feel this mom guilt. And so I want to start with a quote here. This one is from David Rapoport, and it says, "Guilt is rooted in actions of the past, perpetuated in the lack of action in the present, and delivered in the future as pain and suffering." Okay. So this is guilt like that we don't want to feel, right? Like, this is the kind of guilt that maybe it's from something that we've done, right? Something that we actually should feel guilty for. Like, I know there were definitely times in my mom journey when I was in an unhappy place, in an unsettled place. I was just super frustrated. Maybe it was when I was depressed too, right? Like, I was in a bad place myself, And so I was parenting from a place of, lack or a place of unhappiness. And because of that, I was quick to anger. I was easily frustrated. I was overwhelmed all the time. And so my fuse was short, if you will, right? When you have a bomb and there's a short fuse, there's a shorter time to get there. My fuse was short back then, right? Like you did not have to do a lot. And as children and toddlers, we know that children and toddlers tend to frustrate because they're learning things, right? They're testing boundaries, they're doing all of the things. And so I know there were a lot of days where I parented from a place of frustration and a place of unhappiness. And I would feel guilty for how I responded to, something that maybe should not have set me off, right? And how I got angry or how maybe I lashed out or screamed or something like that at one of my kids when they really didn't deserve that, right? When they didn't deserve it. And in those cases, that's not really the kind of guilt that I want to talk about today. Like we easily recognize that, right? But I want to talk about this quote because it says its guilt is rooted in actions of the past, but it's perpetuated and lack of action in the present, right? It's when we sit with that guilt. It's when we sit with that feeling. It's when we sit and we recognize that we have done something, or maybe we haven't done something, right? Like in the case of me, I hadn't done anything to address these concerns I was having. And so it made me feel guilty that I hadn't done something to like stand up for not only my daughter, but, all of these other children, right? And it also gets delivered in the future as pain and suffering, right? Because if we don't address this guilt, if we don't address what we're feeling and why, then it will show up later as pain and suffering, whether it's regret that we didn't do something about it, or whether it's regret that we didn't say something, like in the case of when your child is acting out or something and you act in a way that you would not have normally acted because you were at a heightened, state, then you can apologize for that, right? Like you can go back and correct the situation and teach your child something that is, forgiveness. Number one, like ask for their forgiveness, tell them you're sorry, right? Showing them how to apologize, which is something we would want them to do, right? When they have made a mistake. So when we recognize that we have done something wrong, instead of just sitting in it, right? It's perpetuated in the lack of action. Instead of just sitting in it, we should go and apologize. Or instead of me just sitting with the feeling of guilt, right? I went and acted on it so that later it doesn't have to be delivered in the future as pain and suffering, right? Because it will be delivered as pain and suffering if we just sit with this guilt and don't do anything about it. But that does not serve us. It does not serve our children. It does not serve us. So we can feel guilt for all types of reasons, right? But we need to first recognize that we're feeling it, right? So a lot of times I know we really do recognize, like if you grew up Catholic like me, right? It was called Catholic guilt, right? We know what guilt is, right? We know what guilt is. And this mom guilt that we feel, it is because we are a mother, right? Like we call it mom guilt because it pertains to our child. We are feeling guilty like we are less than for some reason, like a less than a mom that we would want to be because of something that we've done, maybe something that we've not done, right? Sometimes we are comparing ourselves to others and beating ourselves for things that we haven't done. And sometimes we are feeling guilty for something that we have done or we are planning to do, but it's something that we know we needed to do, but we are still feeling guilty for it, right? We know that it's the right decision, yet we're still feeling guilty for it. Then there's the other type of guilt where it's actual guilt that we probably should feel because we acted in a way that we would not have wanted to act. And in that situation, we definitely recognize it right away, right? It's guilt and we recognize it. But the thing is are we going to do anything about it? And that's what I want to talk to you more about today is what to do about it and how you can use it to help you move forward towards the person that you want to be, the mom that you want to be, who you want to be, and how you want to model for your children how they are behaving, right? I want to read one more quote here by Kate McGann, I think, McGahan. It says, if you are filled with guilt and shame, it's because your heart remembers God, but your head seems to have forgotten him. Think about that. It's because your heart remembers God, right? Like it's because innately you know it's something you're feeling because you want to be a good person. You want to be a good mother. Your heart remembers God, right? Like God makes you want to be good, right? Because God is good. God is love. And you want to be the most loving and the best mom you can be for your child, right? But your head seems to have forgotten him, right? Your head is caught up in like, I am terrible because of this, or I am a bad mom because of this, or you're getting stuck. If you've forgotten, God gives you grace, right? God gives you grace. God forgives, right? And so that is what we need to do is we need to not sit in that guilt and let it stop us from what we know we need to do, right? And so do we need to apologize, right? If it's something that we've done that's wrong, if it's some behavior that we've done that we wish we wouldn't have, or do we need to look at the situation and say, okay, what action can I take now? If I'm feeling guilty for something or for not doing something, right? Then what can I do about that now? What should I do about that now? Right. And for me, I don't ever want to, like in the situation with the cheerleading coaches, right? I don't want to just act out of a place of like me jumping to a conclusion or me, because I agree with the, correcting the children and, becoming the most excellent version of yourself and all these things. So I try not to jump to conclusions, but I also am not okay with just sitting by and watching as this continues to happen without standing up for it. So if I don't do something with that, then what's going to happen? Like, what's going to be the consequence? So, a lot of times you have to think down the road. Like, if I don't say anything, right? And we get to the end of this season, right? And I have not said something and I let this continue and this continues and it gets worse and who knows what happens, right? How am I going to feel about the fact that I didn't step up for it a long time ago? Or what damage did that do to some of these girls who are being essentially picked on by this coach, right? I am not okay with it. And so I know when I'm feeling guilty and it's a place of from the lack of me doing something, right? Now, sometimes we're feeling guilty for the lack of doing something and it's not something we should feel guilty for. Like, for instance, if we are seeing other people on the internet, on social media, whatever, you're seeing like the picture perfect, this and that, and the other thing that everyone else is doing, and you're feeling this FOMO that you are not doing enough for your child, or you haven't provided, this kind of an experience for your child or their birthday party, or you haven't taken this trip. You can look at Pinterest, Instagram, Facebook on any given day and find the picture perfect moms all over the place, right? The things that you feel like you're less than, the things that make you feel like you're not doing enough for your child, right? And you can sit there and feel guilty for it. And then also sometimes still not take the action of doing something. And then all it does is it creates this story in your head that you're not a good mother. When in reality, you are a good mother. You do not need to do all of those things in order to be a good mother, right? You just need to love your child. And I'm sure you're providing some experiences for them and doing some things with them. I know I was, right? I was providing all kinds of experiences for them, but sometimes I would look at social media and I would think, gosh, I don't do anything. Like, we never did that. Why do we always go here or there or whatever, but my kids love there, like we would go to the zoo all the time. We had a pass for the zoo. My kids loved the zoo. They would beg to go to the zoo. They always wanted to be at the zoo, but we did not go to the pool very often. Now, when I was a kid, we were at the pool every single day. And so sometimes I would feel guilty about not taking my kids to the pool. But I promise this on the days that I took them to the pool, like they loved it while we were there, but they never asked to go to the pool. Right? When we were there, they loved it, but they didn't ask to go. They asked to go to the zoo, right? They asked to go there. And so we went there. And I don't need to feel guilty about not going to the pool all the time. Like that's just a little snippet of an example that you can take to so many things about how you can use this guilt to either cripple you if you stay in it, or you can say, okay, do I want to change? Do I want to do something differently? Do I want to start taking to the pool? Or do I want to start doing these crafts or going on these excursions or whatever it is, right? Is that something I want to start adding in and then figure out a way to do that, right? Instead of just sitting in the guilt, sitting with this shame, right? That you don't deserve, that you don't need to hold on to, that you don't need to carry. And then there's the mom guilt that happens when we start doing something for ourselves, right? There's the mom guilt that happens. And I know as stay-at-home moms, I know you've all felt this, but this guilt creeps in when you want to do something for yourself. Whether it be, you want more for yourself, right? And you want to like start a business or start a podcast like I did, or, do something where you are having like a little side hustle, or you decide you want to start going and getting a massage or get your nails done or go shopping with girlfriends or go on a girls trip for the weekend. I remember when I would beat myself up about going on a trip with my girlfriends. I was not okay with it because my children were beside themselves, right? Like my youngest was beside herself when I was gone, when it was time for bed. Like she would be upset and sad that I was going to go, but especially when it was bedtime at night, then she would be a mess. She would break down, and I was usually gone for like 2 nights. We usually would go like on a Friday and be back on a Sunday. And I say usually because I would do it like once a year, right? Once a year. And it was something that would fill my cup. It would fill me up. I miss these women. We would get together. We would have a much needed break from our mom lives, right? And then we would go back to it, right? It was like a short and sweet trip that did so much for our souls, so much for ourselves, but it did take us away from our kids for those couple of days, right? And our kids they felt it. Right? They were not wanting us to go. They, not that they didn't want us to have fun or anything like that, but they wanted us there because that's what they know, right? That's what they're used to. But we are trying to build humans that survive on their own, right? And sometimes we can forget that that's what we want, that we want them to be independent, right? That they can't always rely on us for everything. And it's really hard because we want them to need us, right? Like in a way, we want them to need us, but we also want them not to need us, right? And so we can get caught up in their sadness, right? They are experiencing sadness. It is real, right? They are used to that and it is change. And sometimes though, it teaches them a really good lesson, and guess what? It's actually better for them in the long run because I come back, or you come back a different person. You come back filled up. You come back happier. You come back with a little bit more peace. You come back having had a break. We all need a break. And if you do not fall into the guilt trap of staying there and you actually think forward, okay, what can I do? What can I do to lessen the pain of me going, right? Is there something I can do? Like, is there a note I can write? I would do FaceTime, and that was really bad when they were little. And then it was really good once they got a little bit older, because when they were little, it was kind of like an out of sight, out of mind type of a thing. But what happened for us was, it would make things worse because then she could see me, but I wasn't there, right? And so it made things worse instead of just being like completely not there and my husband putting her to bed and all of that. right? But we didn't know it until we tried it. But once they get a little bit older and they can understand that you're gone, then the FaceTime actually worked in the opposite direction. But if there's something you can do ahead of time to maybe like lessen the experience. I know I always brought them something back. So they had something to look forward to when I would come home, and they would be all excited about something that I had gotten them. And then they would know that I thought about them while I was gone. Right. And like I said, if you can, talk to them throughout the time that you're gone, maybe write them little notes in their lunchbox if they're going to school that day or daycare or whatever it is. If somebody else is taking care of them, like sending them little tokens of your love and them seeing that you still care about them, that you're still there, and that they can do this, right, while you're gone is actually good for them. And you can do it in a way where, going back to that first quote, there's not pain and suffering later. Right? Like you have taken that out of the equation. You're not feeling the pain and suffering, and they're not feeling the pain and suffering because you're not sitting in that guilt. You're not sitting in that guilt. You know that this is the best decision. And I wouldn't just go and make decisions willy nilly, right? Like, I'm not saying you should always justify going and doing all of these things and not spending time with your kids. Like, no, that's not what I'm saying. And I know that's not what you're doing, right? I am saying for those of us, and I was definitely one of these people who was all consumed by their children, I would feel so guilty that I would take any time for myself or do anything for myself. I would feel super guilty about it. It did not do any of us any good. And there is a way to get out of that. And it does require a little bit of thinking on the front end or catching it on the back end and then, making a plan, taking an action to not just sit there in that guilt. I hope this is all making sense, especially if you're one of those moms like I was that wanted more for yourself, right? I was wanting more for myself. And so I was, knowing that I needed to do something outside of just being a mom during the day. Like I needed to work my mind. I needed to have an outlet to help people. I needed to have something for myself that was going to be outside of just a mother. And they would never want to feel like they were stopping me from doing that, right? Like I know that they would always want that for me, and I would want that for me too, because it sets a good example for them, right? It sets a good example for them, but it also teaches them that they can do things. But it also allows you to be a better mom, because you're a better mom when you feel happy and fulfilled, right? And when you are not, it's not that your kids aren't fulfilling you, right? It's not that at all. It's that your role as a mother is different than you as a person. Right. And there's something about you. God designed you in such a way that you are actually called to more than just being a mother, right? You are called to more than that. If you are feeling this pull and feeling this tug and sitting there unsettled and unhappy, you do not have to feel guilty about pursuing that. That is what was placed on your heart for a reason. And you are going to be fueled by that. And you are going to be a better mom because you are pursuing it. I hope that makes sense to you. I want to end with one last quote, which is actually not a quote at all. It's a Bible verse, and it's 2 Corinthians 7, verse 10. And it says, "For godly grief produces a repentance that leads to salvation without regret. Worldly grief produces death." So, godly grief, which they're talking about guilt here, right? It's grief. It produces a repentance, right? We say we're sorry to God when we have sinned, that leads to salvation without regret. We don't have to regret it. We can't just sit there in the guilt and keep feeling it, right? Whereas worldly grief produces death. It produces death. It's exactly going back to that first quote. When you sit in that guilt, you will live with pain and sadness. Worldly grief tells us that we are indebted to this world, that God does not forgive our sins, that, we have to sit there in whatever guilt that we're feeling. But that is not what God wants for you, right? He wants you to take action on it. He wants that to be from Him. right? That reason that you're feeling that guilt is because number one, you've either done something wrong, or number two, you probably need to do something and move, right? And what way do you need to move? I believe you need to move in one of two ways, which is an apology, or it's moving and acting on that guilt in a way that produces something positive, in a way that is going to be life-giving for you and for whatever the instance is that you're feeling that guilt about, right? Because we weren't meant to live with this guilt. We were not meant to live with it. We are meant to act on it so that it doesn't stay guilt, so that we don't live there. So I hope that this hit home for some of you. I hope that you will take it and use it and not sit in mom guilt anymore. That when this mom guilt creeps up, that you will recognize it, you will use it, and you will move forward. You will take an action that makes you not sit in it and die to it, right? I want that for you so much. And I want you to know that if you are sitting there wanting more for yourself, that is something that I can help you with. If you are wanting more for your life and you don't know what that next step looks like, this is exactly why I've created these prioritization clarity calls that I will do with you, where we will uncover what it is that you want. We'll get to the heart of it. We'll get to who you are, core values, right? And your strengths and what you're good at and what you want for yourself and your family at this moment in time. What is it for you in this season? How do you move forward towards that? And we will get super clear on it so that you don't have to live with this regret, right? So you don't have to live with this unsettled feeling and this unhappiness. And we want you to be productive and feel fulfilled. And that is what I want for you. So go to prioritizewithpurpose.com, prioritizewithpurpose.com/coaching, and schedule a call with me. We will walk through this together. I will help you on your journey. I have been where you are. You are not alone. And I do not want you to feel alone. And I do not want you to stay stuck where you are. So go schedule a call. And if you need any questions answered, I'm also doing a discovery call for free one-on-one with me so that you can feel confident in scheduling that call. So if you still have questions, again, just go to prioritizewithpurpose.com and schedule that discovery call with me. And I will see you right back here on Thursday. I hope you enjoyed today's episode, Mama. If so, please leave a review on Apple Podcasts and then hit share and send this to a mom who needs this in her day. I'll meet you right here on Thursday. Keep smiling, y'all.